Okay, so we've got a couple of changes to make. First one is another USB-C lead down the bottom would be useful, because sometimes you don't want to put your phone up on the windscreen. So the other problem is that while the cable up there is rather distinctive, it's also rather distinctively visible reflected off the windscreen in every interior shot we make. So we're going to add one down the bottom and replace the one up the top using these Signet cables. These are braided on the insulation rather than being solid rubber, which is really good, especially if they're above the dashboard, because if you use one with plastic insulation, it's just going to get ruined. But what we're going to do for the one that's up the top is we'll cover this bright silver bit in some black heat shrink to make it a lot less visible. I would strongly recommend using an actual hot air blower tip on the soldering iron instead of just taking the tip off and hitting this thing with a flame. It produces a much neater result overall. It does shrink slightly in length, which I didn't quite account for there. I mean, of course, I could probably just leave this on the dashboard of the car and it would end up shrinking by itself over time, given how hot that gets, but I'll go for a slightly more measured approach here. Okay, so I was initially worried it wouldn't fit into the case, but seems that it's fine. 4 gauge and an Anderson SB50 4 gauge. So really should use an SB125 for this, but going to use an SB50 mostly for compatibility and the environmental housing. So I might have to give the wire a bit of a haircut, and I guess we'll just have to see how this goes. Yep, so turn our 4 gauge into 6 gauge. Now we've got a black connector to go inside the environmental boot, because why not? All of the other colors of Anderson are keyed so that they don't mate together, but the black does mate with the grey. So that does indeed go on. AWG. Alright, so that goes in there. Covered this in duct tape because it's a razor sharp edge. Had it glued back together using the glue that uses a primer to stick to polypropylene, but that stuff just wasn't quite enough. It's broken off right where it's glued. So if you're wondering where the best place to get Toyota parts is, funnily enough, despite what you may think, it's actually the parts counter at the dealership. Ah, right. Huh. That clip must have been broken off on the one that was there before. So the only thing I did mess up was there's this bit on the other side that is actually a separate part that I didn't order. Inexplicably new. Touch wider, but it'll do. Put it here and cable tie it to that wire. Turned out a touch shorter than I wanted. Okay, 150 amps. Except I messed up here. I put the 6mm on there, not the 8. That mostly went well till the crimper malfunctioned. It's good enough. So that's on that.
Not 100% sure I'm happy with that spot, but yeah.
So the phone holder on the windscreen kind of broke, so it's being replaced with this lot, like the one that exists on the passenger side. Ram mount large X grip. This bit actually goes through the back here and then goes out over the corners of the phone to make really sure that it doesn't come off the holder. That's generally not required outside of sticking this on a bicycle, a motorbike, or open cockpit aircraft. It does need to be done gluing these on. And I swear every time I use super glue I manage to glue something to my finger or my finger to something, so I expect this will be no exception. I think I got away with that one, or I haven't screwed up yet. And then we just now need to go and attach that to the car. So you're thinking like that. The important thing is we don't go and put the phone holder on it now. We leave it for at least 48 hours. But that means I can rearrange this back to how it was. Much better. So that's where we're up to now. Unfortunately, I've got one more thing to fix. After disassembling my main editing machine to blow the dust out of the fans, it's dead, and I'm now using the backup plan. Less screen, half the RAM, i5 instead of i7, integrated graphics. Final Cut Pro runs, still, but what's killing me is that QGIS absolutely crawls. Being a mid-2014, it's nearly 7 years old, and I've been meaning to replace it for a while, but I was waiting on Apple making an M1 15 or 16 inch. New logic board has been ordered, but shipping from the US at the moment can only be described as glacial. The backstory series for 100 subscribers is still in progress. There's one more video from our Queensland adventure in the pipeline, and we've got 2 more trips planned soon, so stay tuned for some new stuff. Don't forget to subscribe so you're sure not to miss it.